Good evening, I'm Christian Frank. Thanks for being with us tonight. Each year, Humane Society of West Michigan opens its doors to thousands of animals in need of a new home. Tonight, you'll meet three of them, a pair of cats named Mr. and Polar, and a dog named Maisie. You'll see the bonds of love and family. First, the story of Mr. and Polar. They came to Humane Society of West Michigan within weeks of each other, but soon both began to experience medical difficulties.
Mr., after a few days in our care here, he seemed to start limping and he wasn't putting weight on his back rear legs. What we were noticing is that the hip and socket joint were kind of going in and out. We performed as a surgery called a femoral head ostectomy. From there we were able to have him rehabilitate back here in surgery. Polar, on the other hand, she was very sick. She had a lot of upper respiratory infection going on. Started kind of going downhill from there.
As they were being monitored, Polar began to form a bond with Mr.
And at that point was when we kind of discovered that him and Polar had a little bit of a romance going on. From there out, they kind of just have been together since.
With their recovery complete, it was time to find their forever home.
The owners, David and Michael, came in. They had just lost their previous cat that they had had for a very long time, and they were kind of looking for a new forever friend.
So I went on the Humane Society website, and it's almost like picking a date because they got all the pictures of all the cats and dogs, and I came across Mr.'s picture and I thought, that is a sassy sounding name.
So since he did have such a extensive medical history with us, I went up there and was kind of talking with them and meeting them, and I kind of dropped a few hints that, you know, Mr. had a little girlfriend here and that we were trying to keep them together.
I really wanted him, so I wasn't sure about her, but after seeing them together, I think sometimes that he depends more on her than she does on him, but she likes to follow him around. It's like he's her big brother or something.
Mr. was up on the table and he rubbed his nose up against mine, and I knew right then and there, he was going to be our pet.
It was at that point that the adoption hit a roadblock.
The next morning, I ended up back in the hospital again.
But I called the Humane Society and asked them if they could keep them, so they didn't come to an empty house and have to deal with that. So they were very kind. I believe it was like a month that they kept them.
And then it was time to make the family complete.
And I'm really glad that we could take them together and keep them together. And they're almost like mates. And it's just really, really cute to watch them, the way they sleep together. There have been times she comes up and lays on my lap and he lays right on top of her. I mean, that big fat thing lays right on top of her and she lets him do it, and it's almost like she's comforted by having him so close. I think they really make our house whole. They really enjoy playing with each other, and it gives you something to look forward to, especially with David's health issues. It's something happy to think about.
Now we meet Maisie. Her story begins with an emergency call to the Kent County Animal Shelter about a neglected dog.
However, when we arrived on scene, we very quickly realized that this dog was in need of urgent medical care. When Maisie arrived at the Kent County Animal Shelter for assessment, she was quite dirty, had been living in a filthy environment, and it was clear that she hadn't had a lot of one-on-one contact with humans in some time. It's desperately frustrating to see a dog that has been neglected to the point and ignored to the point that something like a carabiner could actually grow into the dog's skin without somebody intervening and realizing that there was a problem.
After emergency surgery to remove the carabiner, Maisie was placed in protective custody.
The Humane Society of West Michigan was able to assist Maisie's case by taking her into what we call protective custody or witness protection over at Project Bark, which is a project that they run with the Kent County Juvenile Detention Program to help rehabilitate dogs that are in need.
Seeing Maisie, a dog that had been, chained outside with a carabiner through her neck, I think that really hit the kids pretty hard because they don't see those things. I just think that they had never thought about what it means for a dog to be chained out. It's important for people to recognize that a dog being chained outside away from people for several months at a minimum is very difficult for them. They're very social. It's hard to be away from people. That's not what they're bred to do, essentially.
Because Maisie needed time to heal, Humane Society of West Michigan placed her in the Project BART program. It's a partnership with the Kent County Juvenile Detention Center. Maisie lived with the kids who choose to participate in the program. They fed, groomed, trained, socialized, and cared for Maisie. She continued to thrive and help the kids. After graduating from Project Bark, it was time to find Maisie a new home, and that's when she met Stephanie and Justin.
First time that we saw her, we fell in love with her. Well, the staff when we first got there, they were very, very sweet and understanding. They were very open to what we needed. And it's our first time ever doing this, so we didn't know what we were doing.
She was pretty fearful. You could tell every time you try to pet her, at first she'd flinch and close her eyes and put her head down like she was in trouble. Injury-wise, knowing what Maisie went through with all the scars and abuse that she had with her previous owners, I couldn't imagine, I couldn't think of how fast she would gain our trust or how long it would take or anything.
Then it was time to introduce Maisie to the rest of the family.
But once my mom came home, Maisie went straight to her and started licking her and everything. And now my dad wouldn't know what to do without her.
And Maisie is always in the front seat, and when we take her for rides too, we would get out for a second, and then when we come back, she's in my seat, just sitting there looking. And then she won't get out either. We have to take Maisie out of the car and put her back in the back seat, because you just won't go back, will ya?
Like each of us who are in the midst of our own life story, Mr. Polar, Maisie, and the thousands of animals who come to Humane Society of West Michigan also have stories to share. And thankfully, because of compassionate and dedicated supporters like you, their stories don't stop after being abandoned, lost, abused, or unwanted. We know we can't do it alone. That's why your consistent financial support helps the animals of our community to have a more quality life story of not just surviving, but thriving. Your dollars help connect adopters with animals for their next forever homes. That is why events like tonight are so important to keeping our doors open to welcome animals in need, connecting people with pets. We're so grateful for all that you do so that we can continue to provide medical and behavioral care and community services. Please consider helping fund our mission. Thank you.